Watch this.
Ahead on the 208. Lawmakers have the right to speak out on whatever they want, but did a group of politicians cross the legal line by filming their thoughts from inside a State House room? New complaints question anti-Prop 1 social media videos. Speaking of elected officials, we're still hearing reactions to the racist comment by an Idaho senator. People are waiting for an apology that may never come. I bet you can't guess how many hot dogs Boise State makes for game day. How about pulled pork? Don't forget the brisket. Well, yes, it is a lot, but we did talk to the people who put it all together.
Surely, he recognizes that this is a moment full of emotion, and I'm looking for that emotional intelligence where that he can call and apologize.
Now the Nez Perce tribe, who Trish Carter Goodhart is a member of, is also asking for an apology from sitting Senator Dan Foreman, who told Carter Goodhart, who is also a Democratic candidate for Idaho's House, to quote unquote, go back to where you came from where you're from. Now, that happened last Monday at a candidate forum in Kendrick, Idaho, and Dan Foreman, the senator, is claiming online that he never, quote, made no racial slur or any statement of any nature. He said that in a Facebook post last Thursday. He went on to say, quote, I threatened no one at the forum. This accusation is also patently false. I told my political opponent to stop deviating from the stated rules of the forum and not to repeat the offense during the ensuing proceedings after she violated those rules by making a personal and unwarranted insulting attack on me in her opening remarks. There was no threat of any nature there, and included, quote, now let's get to the heart of the matter. Idaho does not practice systemic racism. That is a fact, end quote from the senator. But according to Trish Carter Goodhart, he did in fact say, go back to where you're from, which is historically a racial slur for clear reasons. The Idaho GOP also commented on this incident, just tweeting yesterday night. This was a setup, pure and simple. Dan Foreman is not a racist, nor does Idaho have a systemic racism problem. This is a non-issue, as it didn't happen as reported. It is an entirely scurrilous as to what the Democrats and media are doing to this man. After reviewing and verifying, the Idaho GOP stands behind Senator Dan Foreman, end quote. Yesterday, the Nez Perce tribe gave their own statement saying, given our history in the region, it is difficult to interpret the recent incident as anything other than an attempt to racially divide people while diminishing the value of some relative to others. The Nez Perce tribe refuses to tolerate this kind of hateful and divisive politics, and we ask other elected leaders in this region to stand with us in pushing back against such offensive behavior. The organization CAIR, who defends civil rights of American Muslims across the country, they're demanding an apology from Senator Foreman. I reached out to Senator Foreman to see if he would talk or have an email or a conversation with us. Did not hear back from him. We also are curious if anyone who was at the meeting or has videos of pictures, if they'd be able to share it with us. We are hearing very differing accounts from different people. Of course, we heard from Trish earlier this week on the 208 on her statements and what she says happened. We would love to see pictures or videos to help settle this. Again, we will continue to follow the story. There's a new fire burning along Highway 16, but good news is that the Valley Fire near Boise is getting better. Audrielle Tackett has details on those fires and more in today's 411.
Crews are working to put out a brush fire along Highway 16 near Firebird Raceway. The Star Fire Chief says the fire started around 1:30 this afternoon and has burned about 20 acres. No structures are threatened, but an Ada County spokesperson says a code red was sent out to residents in the area to let them know about the fire. The Star Fire Chief says they expect to have the fire contained and controlled in the next several hours.
It's reassuring that they've been able to keep a boundary between the fire and all the residents of Roby Creek.
Now to the Valley Fire burning east of Boise. Fire crews are making major progress on the Valley Fire burning east of Boise. So far, the Valley Fire has burned roughly 10,000 acres and is halfway contained. The Bureau of Land Management says people should stay clear of the Roby Creek area until the fire is under control. The Idaho State Department of Agriculture is treating the Snake River for quagga mussels again today. It comes after the agency says it found more mussels in the river in the Twin Falls area last month. The treatment will involve the same products used to treat the river last year, and it should last about 10 days. ISDA says it's planning a second treatment for November. A week from today, the Boise Airport will move its cell phone lot into a new location with more space. The airport says the new lot will have individual spots, so you won't have to pull forward when others leave. It will have its own entrance at 2950 South Curtis Road. The current cell phone waiting area will close on Monday, after the last flight arrives, and will no longer be available. Looking for a fun winter gig? Bogus Basin is looking to hire 500 seasonal positions at their job fair this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at their downtown sales office. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Audrielle Tackett.
Did you know the state of Idaho is a top producer of many crops in the state? Potatoes, yep, wheat, corn, barley, and dairy. But who is behind the operation? According to the 2022 Census of Agriculture, the average age of all United States farm producers, 58 years old, and that's up from 2017 and is continuing the long-term trend of an aging producer population. Our Hunter Funk spoke with young farmers about why we aren't seeing more industry people that are younger, and it's a very interesting conversation, Hunter. I know I sat down with a group of farmers not too long ago, and they say, yeah, this is an old man's game.
Yeah, it's concerning too, right? Now, if we put it really simply, it all comes down to the money. Terry Walton and Justin Roberts are young Idaho farmers. They both got their start through their family operation farms, but high price tags for equipment and land, along with high input costs, have made having a second job necessary.
I kept that welding job, and I did that for 3 years until we could save up enough money to start buying equipment.
And I work another full-time job at a feedlot as assistant manager, so it pays the bills.
Is now operating his farms full-time, but Roberts continues to work at the feedlot. They're not alone. The census shows that 59% of farmers have another occupation along with farming. Both say it's very difficult for a person who's trying to get their start in farming. And it matches the trend. The census shows only 7% of farmers are 25 to 34 years old. And get this, only 832 Idaho farmers are under 25. That's about 1.9%. Now, coming up at 6, we're going to talk more about what are those challenges that they're facing and also maybe some tips on how we can get more young farmers in there.
Okay, I'm interested to see that. Thank you so much, Hunter. We'll talk soon. Okay, so how about some politics in this election season? Here's a fact. Elected officials, they have the same First Amendment rights as the rest of us, but there are some things that elected officials need to keep in mind that the general public probably doesn't care about. There are specific laws, for example, tailored to lawmakers' work and the content that they produce because of the fact that sometimes often, they're in a public space using public resources or even public money. Lawmakers actually passed a law in 2018 with the statement of purpose saying in part, quote, "It's to ensure that public funds, resources, and property are not used to influence at the ballot box." It's a tricky area of the law, but it's now in focus for those concerned about a series of anti-Prop 1 videos being published on social media by a political action committee that is pushing against Proposition 1. So whether you support the open primary and ranked choice voting option or not, there is attention on where and how the videos featuring elected sitting lawmakers, how are these made? Where were they filmed? Complaints to the Attorney General's office say that some elected politicians crossed the line.
My name is Brandon Mitchell.
I'm Brian Lenny.
I'm Clint Hostetler.
I'm Jaron Crane.
If you follow Idaho politics online, there's a good chance you have seen this series of videos from Idaho Republicans, paid for and created by the Political Action Committee, one person, one vote.
So the idea that ranked choice voting is somehow fair.
Elected lawmakers, candidates to win legislative office in November, and at least a constitutional officer appear in the videos speaking out against Proposition 1 in various ways. Something that drew attention in the Prop 1 campaign, questions about the use of the state seal on yard signs across the valley. Seems that those are in bounds, but these videos also include the state seal, creating new similar questions. But there's something else that some Idahoans are now looking at in these videos. Where were they filmed? Sources tell me they were, in fact, filmed inside a closed committee room at the State House following the legislative session. That assertion has some asking if the videos are a violation of Idaho's Public Integrity in Elections Act.
I felt like it was an improper use of state facilities.
Representative Ned Burns of Bellevue, Idaho, reached out to the Attorney General's office about his concerns.
We had a conversation, and I said I would like you to look into it, and if anything comes of it, the videos should come down, a warning should be issued.
Idaho code says neither a public entity nor any of its employees shall use, nor shall a public official authorizer use, public property or resources to advocate for or against a candidate or a ballot measure. There is an exemption in the law, though, for, quote, legislators' use of public property or resources for communication with the public using electronic or traditional physical correspondence, aka emails and letters, or the use of any portion of any media initially produced using public property or resources from recordings of the legislature or any legislative committees, aka recordings of legislative hearings and votes that we cover. Representative Burns doesn't read the exception as including these videos.
I mean, if you want to, potentially grab a clip of something you said in a committee hearing or something that you spoke on the House floor, I don't think I've got a problem with that. But most lawmakers have done it. We've all posted clips of ourselves on our social media accounts. That to me is completely in bounds. But this feels like it's out of bounds, in my opinion.
Burns isn't the only person who has reached out to the AG. A new complaint obtained by KTVB, written from a citizen, touches on concerns about misuse of public property through the lens of accessing areas at the State House that are not open to the public. Idaho law talks about the fair use of public property, defined as available to the general public at such times and in such a manner as they are available to the general public. Complaints identify problems with what appears to be lawmakers behind locked doors the public doesn't have access to. So I guess like a lawmaker would have to have some type of security badge to access those areas, or?
Correct. If they were out on the rotunda, not a problem. If they were, out on the State House steps, not a problem. But like I said, it's because they're in a closed committee room that's what feels to me like this is potentially a bit outside of the scope of the law.
Burns is concerned with the impression that these videos are official government stances on Proposition 1, something that would greatly influence some voters.
It appears problematic. It doesn't feel like something that we should be doing, either for or against.
So the law, by the way, was just updated this past year to include the exceptions about, I guess, digital or traditional communications, emails and letters, as well as using recordings of the State House action. If you're curious if there is a violation of the law, it's not a massive fine. It's a $1,500 fine, possibly a $250 fine, just depending on the facts of the situation. The Attorney General is charged with investigating and looking into this, and I did speak with his office earlier today, waiting to hear back more in detail. For notes, I also did reach out to the Political Action Committee for insight and their perspective on the question. Guess how many hot dogs Boise State makes for game day? We're going to tell you that and a lot of other food facts because we caught up with the people who make it all happen on game day. Text us your guesses or your favorite game day food, really anything about the show. Questions, comments, concerns, go straight to this text number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208. We're going to get to some of these live at the end of the show. Did you know that the kitchen staff on Boise State's campus altogether spends 750 working hours a week preparing for the home football game? And the concessions in Albertson Stadium aren't just your standard hot dogs and nachos, but instead they have a variety of locally produced meats and ingredients to top them all off. So the kitchen feeds tens of thousands of people at the concession stands on game days and in those stadium suites. And on top of all that, by the way, they also feed the athletes and the security staff, the people that are there during the day. So our Aspen Shumpert stepped into the college kitchen to get a look at what it takes for the stadium snacks on game day.
There's a lot to love about a game at Albertson Stadium: the lights, the blue turf, and the food.
We've really tried to give the fans a good experience. Everybody has their own idea about what they want and what they're feeling.
This season, the stadium has hit a record number of over 37,000 fans in the stands. That's more people than the population of Garden City, Ketchum, Sun Valley, and McCall combined.
This is, probably the biggest event in town.
The work to feed tens of thousands of people in the stands starts days before in the kitchen, so you don't go hungry cheering on the Broncos.
It's over 2,000 pounds of brisket that we're smoking for a game, 2,000 pounds of pork.
Which is part of their effort to not just offer a typical hot dog or plate of nachos. Chef Cruz says the team of about 30 people in the specific kitchen makes 4,500 all-beef hot dogs, 2,000 pretzels, and 500 pounds of wings just for one game.
We have to deal with oven space, we have to deal with smokers.
Prepping different menu items for the fans in the suites.
We have to prep a couple days in advance, obviously, or we wouldn't be able to hit anything that we're doing.
A lot of work for just 6 days a season. BSU says Saturday they had 44,780 transactions between concessions and suites.
We have a lot of daily tasks that need to get done in order for the one game to go off well. And so once we get back to the beginning of another game, start of a new week, have to start that list all over again.
But it doesn't stop with just the fans. On top of feeding another 150 security staff on game day, the kitchen also feeds about 80 athletes on the team during the week too.
This is our toughest time of year as far as a workload goes. Our main goal is just obviously to make sure that the food is safe and everybody is here to eat safely, but have a good time.
Cruz, who's been in the BSU kitchen for 9 years, says being a part of Bronco game days remains the highlight of his career each year. When I stopped by to see how this works and how these chefs are spending their week leading up to home games, I said to them there's so much behind the scenes work that goes into the fan experience on game day, and so much that the fans don't see. I even said to them, I show up, the chips are behind the counter, you guys are, ready to go. And it was interesting to see how they prepare for all of this. And this is just one of their kitchens. This is athletics and concessions. There's dining hall kitchens and everything else that goes into making food for the campus. So wild to see it all come together.
We're also in an age of the second screen experience. I know that you can watch Monday Night Football with all kinds of different angles. I would like a camera angle just in the stadium kitchen so you could see Ash and Jenny going for a 70-yard run, and then you could see them panicking knowing people are about to come get more snacks.
You just set one up.
There we go.
There we go. There
Bye, Boise State. Aspen Shumpert, thanks so much. We'll be back.
Some stunning sunset and sunrise photos there. Now, we won't have as dramatic a sunset tonight across the Treasure Valley as we don't have any clouds out there, just crystal clear blue skies. I love the foreground shot here from Skycam 7. You see some of that fall foliage as well. And hey, it's another summer-like fall day. We're down to 82 in Boise right now. We hit 83 not long ago. Very light northwesterly winds in play right now, but a really stunning day. And hey, speaking of summer-like heat, look at Mountain Home. That warm air surging in from the south right now has boosted Mountain Home into record-setting territory. So if you're in the Mountain Home area, you are sweating it out right now at 93 degrees, shattering today's previous all-time record high of 91. So congratulations, Mountain Home. You're enduring the hottest October 8th on record there. It's a comfortable 80 degrees in Twin Falls right now. And so as we look ahead for the rest of your evening here in the Treasure Valley, clear skies remain in play, those very light northwesterly winds. Temperatures still around 80 degrees as we head towards our sunset, then into the mid-70s around 8 o'clock. Picture perfect for that walk around the block after dinner. We are seeing a little bit of moisture streaming in from the south of Twin Falls and just outside Oakley now to the south in Burley. If you look to the south, you might see some of those storm clouds brewing. So far, it's been just a little bit of light rain and some gusty winds. Other than that, no big impacts there. High temperatures tomorrow back off just a little bit, but still will be in the 80s again across the Treasure and Magic Valleys. 7-day outlook shows some clouds and cooler temperatures on Thursday, but after that, nice and warm, at least for mid-October, from Friday all the way into early next week.
All right, let's take a look at some of your comments to end the half hour here. We'll start with this. Didn't GOP Representative Lori McCann, who was present, confirm that Senator Foreman said the racist comment? How is the Idaho GOP taking an opposite position? I'll tell you, in this day and age, if you get into a situation where it's he said, she said, whether there's a group of people or not, people really want to see video. But we can tell you, Lori McCann told our team that, yes, she did hear that at the event. Okay, so next comment coming in here is... Maybe. There you go. Joe, my guess is one really, really long hot dog. They just cut it up. That was the answer on how many hot dogs are on game days. This person says, as a survivor, I'd agree that behind-the-scenes coverage of Boise State concessions booth would qualify as action-adventure. Very good. And then going back to politics and the Senator Foreman situation, this person writes in, unbelievable how we can make such a big deal out of nothing when it comes to politics. Go back to where you came from. How is that insulting? That's from Joe Ford. I guess here's the conversation. First of all, I don't know if this is a serious question. If it is though, my personal response here, telling somebody to go back to where they came from is like the most patently easy way to say, we don't want you here. We do not like your kind here. You don't belong here, so get out of here. If you want to call that racist, if you want to call that hateful, you can call it whatever adjective you want. But that type of messaging, go back to where you came from, is clearly offensive. If you want to make an argument, it's not racist, that's on your conscience. But I'll tell you, telling someone to go back to where they came from, especially when you're talking to a member of a Native American tribe who is on their native land, if that did happen, it's not good.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.